Welcome to the first edition of the Wise Take NFL preview series, mini series, we should say. This is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I'm joined once again. It's been a while. We're joined with Paulie D, aka Paulie 8D. He's making his first appearance on camera since since appearing in the FanDuel Live final and doing us all proud down in Chicago. Paulie D, what's going on, brother?
Not too much, man. Thrilled to be back. Real pumped to be talking about football, to be honest with you. Baseball's winding down, and football is my main sport. And we've been so into football, baseball this year. I feel like I was falling behind and not up to speed with what's going on. So I'm looking forward to going through these divisions one by one and getting caught up and helping our members get caught up as well.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely excited about it too. It's a whole different concept. Like, don't get me wrong, football and baseball, the variants are the most, like, compared to like a sport like basketball. So there's still a lot of variance in football, but it's just there's a big advantage to understanding the game, and that's what I like about football. Right? It's not just like in baseball; it's about stats, and this in football, yeah, it's about stats too, but it's also about not just game theory either, knowing the game. Knowing how football works, trying to get in the head of some of these coaches and some of these players and trying to figure it out, man. It's fun. You have all week to go back and forth. It's so much fun, man. I love football.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, you have all week to kind of contemplate the slate. You get the pricing usually by Monday morning. And, sure, there's a few injuries that you got to anticipate. And if there's a cheap running back, that's usually like a huge, game changer on the week. If the first few weeks, like whoever the Cowboys starting running back's going to be is going to be like that cheap running back that's going to be heavily owned, and you got to decide whether to fade or go with him as the chalk. But anytime you can get a guy underpriced that's going to get that many touches, that's like the direction you really need to be focusing on in football. But it really is different. It's not day to day. And it's the most popular sport in our country. It's my favorite sport, and there's nothing better than kickoff on Sunday. Over here on the East Coast, it's 105, and then the points just get going. It's not slow like baseball. It's like a couple home runs here and there. It's like literally like bang, bang, bang. Like once the games get moving, and then the fourth quarter. From 3:30 to 4 o'clock, there's just so much scoring changes and stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's the best.
yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
Like you said, man, it's kind of like the perfect balance of like a sweat, because like basketball is too much. Like, like forget
Yeah,
about it, man. It's not even
yeah,
worth, like, you just boom, 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 boom. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even look
yeah,
till the last game is over. Don't even bother looking. But
yep,
in football, man, it's fun, and like it could be brutally painful to watch that last touchdown that knocks you out of first, but it could be
sure.
so exciting to watch it
Yeah,
happen if you're on the other end of that.
when you
It
get
is
it,
just like,
it's the
man,
best.
it's fun. I'm excited. I'm not like I'm practically drooling talking
I
about it
know.
right now, bro. Like, I feel it. I'm excited, man. I can't wait. Don't get me wrong. We love baseball and we do the grind, and we do. We're gonna continue to do our best for our subscribers, of course, as we always do. You're always gonna get our effort, but I can't tell you enough how excited all of us are. Joe, Paulie, and myself, all three of us football happens to be our best sport, our favorite sport. So we're all very, very excited to
Yeah,
start, man. So listen, start us off. We're gonna talk about the AFC East, obviously. So start me off. I want you to give me like a division overview. Like, obviously, AFC East probably is one of the easier divisions to predict. But tell me just your overview of this division.
yeah. And I think our members know Paulie D likes to go contrarian, but I am not gonna say I'm not fading the Patriots. They're definitely winning this division. I would say probably 13-3, just because they get 6 games in this division. I don't see any of these teams beating them. Maybe one team, maybe the Bills will like squeak out a win in like week 16 or something. But I see them going undefeated in their division. In doing some research, they have like one of the fifth softest running defenses against that they take on. And it's Tom Brady, and he's gotten some more weapons. They're coming into the season pretty healthy. Like, last few years, Gronk's been hurt. They've had juggling some receivers, but right now they're coming in pretty healthy with some new weapons, and they're the champs. So until they get knocked off, I think they're gonna run the tables again, and most likely end up in the division championships and have a shot at the Super Bowl. After that's where it gets interesting in this division. You know, my opinion, my opinion is I think Buffalo will probably come in second, and I think they'll have a shot at the playoffs. Most of their core is coming back, and they weren't too far off last year. They were in the race up until about like the second to last week. And last year they missed out on Sammy Watkins for most of the year, which they actually just traded. It's funny. I have Sammy Watkins in a keeper league, and I was like getting ready to keep him, and now he's on the Rams. But
Jared Goff.
you know, they made a good move. They went out and got Jordan Matthews, who's like, so far has been more durable, and I think he's going to add an extra layer of like reliable possession kind of receiver for them. And with Shady coming back, a solid defense, I think the Bills will probably be in second and maybe have a shot at the wild card. Something like 9-7, 10-6. After that, I'd probably go with the Dolphins. With Tannehill going down and Cutler coming in, I don't really know if that's really going to impact them that much. And I think they have some weapons on their offense, but I'm not very confident about their defense and about their depth. Like if one of the, if Ajayi goes down, I don't know if they have another back there that can carry the load. If like one of their main defensive players goes down, like they might become one of the worst defensive teams out there this year. So, that being said, I don't see them competing this year, and who knows how long it's going to take Cutler to get used to the offense. So I think they're going to struggle and probably end up like 6-10. And then unfortunately, I'm a Giants fan, but most of my family's Jets fans. So, I represent the Jets. I love them. Like the first 2 years with Sanchez and they made the division finals was like the greatest run. And, like the Bart Scott can't wait moment was like just, so like inspiring.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time since we've had those moments. And like, this is the ultimate rebuilding year for them. No matter who ends up being the quarterback or starting, they're falling apart. They just lost their best receiver for the season, and Nunwa. It's going to be a tough one, but we've seen other teams do this. Like Tampa Bay was like 2-14 like 2 years ago. Then they got Jameis and the receiver Mike, what's his name? Big tall Jameis' top receiver.
Oh, Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, and now they're rebuilt and they could contend. So maybe the Jets go out, throw a dud of a season, but get a bunch of good draft picks, make some of the right moves the next 2 years, and come back strong. 2 or 3 years from now. So, but it's going to be rough. I'd be shocked if they win more than 2 games.
Yeah. I think their over under for Vegas is what, like 3.5 or 4 or something like that. Like very low.
Is it that high?
It's that high. Yeah. That was exactly. It's rough, man. I'm a Jet fan, so like just locally, I see the Giants. I live in Jersey still,
Yep.
Paulie. So,
Yep.
so you know how it is, bro. I still get the local news and all that. So even without trying, you keep up with these things. And yeah, man, like Anunwa was the number one. That's the first issue. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I like Anunwa, but he was the number one. So you're already like, okay, this is a guy that was a great number 3 last year.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he's your number 1. He gets hurt. Now we have Robbie Anderson, a guy that I believe they drafted. Don't get me wrong, I like Robbie Anderson. I watched him at Temple, a very big, deep threat. He's.
Yep.
I like him. It's nothing against him, but he's not a number 1. He's second year in the league. And they he was somebody that was the whole reason. I think him and Bryce Petty were like the what they thought could be a thing, because Bryce Petty throwing bombs at Baylor, and then Robbie Anderson, and Bryce Petty's like not even on the radar now. So it's like now you got to see if these guys like McGowan and Hackenberg can throw it to him. Hackenberg can hit him, but McGowan's going to be your guy. And McGowan's he's smarter, more experienced. He's going to be the guy. So it's like it's going to be a roughie. I'd have to agree. And I know we went on a little tangent with the Jets. That was my fault. But yeah, right. I'd have to agree, man. Anyway, you know what? Let's talk about things. I want to go team by team, Paulie. I want to go team by team. We'll start with the Patriots. And I want you to just, from a fantasy perspective, I want you to tell me your thoughts going into the season.
Fantasy implications for sure. So I mean, I think Brady's definitely viable most weeks. Anytime that I think with Brady, you almost want him in competitive games. More so than when they're the 13-point favorites. So like, if they have a game against Pittsburgh or any other like, rival that's not known for their defense so much, is the games you want him in, where they're going to be in a shootout. Belichick likes to run it up against teams that, are competitive with them. So, if you get a game against the Steelers, you get a game against like the Falcons or the Saints, those are going to be the games you'll want Brady where, maybe they'll find themselves with a deficit, or they just want to, keep the small lead that they have. But any team that they're going to blow out, like last year where we saw LeGarrette Blunt carry the ball all second half for a couple touchdowns, I think you're going to see the same thing. Like you'll see them go off in the first half, but then the second half will be all about the run, keep Tom Brady healthy, and, get to the playoffs. So, Tom Brady in FanDuel, depending on price, I think will be relevant in the games that are supposed to be close. To the run game, it's interesting. They've got a lot of bodies, so, and that's kind of what they've been every year, is like a running back by committee, so they went out and got Mike Gillislee and Rex Burkhead. Then they have Dion Lewis and James White, who kind of emerged last year. He was a Super Bowl MVP, I believe, and, was like a weapon in the pass game at the end of the season there. So that's four bodies that we don't know what the roles are going to be. I mean, they paid Gillislee a bunch of money, so I think he's going to be the lead back, like the LeGarrette Blunt type role. But, as we all know, like, you don't know what Belichick's going to do week to week. So it's tough to play these guys. Like I think James White is more interesting at a discount, and hope that he catches, like two or three passes for like long receptions, hopefully a touchdown. But it's going to be a matchup based thing, and something I probably more often going to be fading than not. Like LeGarrette Blunt was like a steamroller. You knew when he got into the goal line he was going to get the touchdown. I don't know if Gillislee is that dependable. So like, I don't see using these guys unless one of them emerges over the season as, that reliable.
Yeah.
Where I think you want to take advantage of the Patriots is going to be the receivers. They went out and added Cooks from the Saints. That's like one of the bigger boom busts players on the board right now. Like in season longs, guys are taking him pretty early, and he could pay off and be like this amazing slot receiver. But they already have Edelman in that role, like the inside receiver that's going to be catching, 6 to 10 passes a game. And Cooks has a little bit more speed, so he might become a deep threat, but he's not a tall guy. He's going to be running them from the slant. I mean, that program's just so great. I'm sure they're going to find awesome ways to use him. I expect him to have a great year, and he'll probably have a handful of weeks where he goes off and Brady hits him, for 2 80-yard touchdowns in the same game. But I don't know if he's, I don't know who you pick, because you got Edelman, who's Mr. Reliable. You got Hogan, who we saw have a couple like huge games last year. And then we got Gronk, who's healthy right now. And they went out and got Dwayne Allen, because Gronk gets hurt every year. They always have to have a good backup. Dwayne Allen.
Did they still got Amendola?
Amendola's there, but he's like, he may not even make the roster. He may, like they got Malcolm Mitchell who emerged last year.
Malcolm Mitchell. It's right. Yeah, they like that kid a lot. They like him.
So Amendola is probably gonna be like a wide receiver 5/6. If someone gets hurt. But yeah, it looks like it's gonna be Edelman, Cooks as 1, 2, and then either Hogan or Mitchell are gonna battle it out for that third spot right now.
It's so interesting because I remember Cooks last year complaining about not getting enough targets with Breeze, and it was just him and the rookie. It was pretty much just Snead was like barely in the picture. It was basically him and the rookie, and he was complaining. And now he went to a spot where he's like we've seen number one receivers mean nothing to them. We've seen like Randy Moss and these guys have decent, they did okay, but like they weren't like breakout like must throw to him kind of guys. That's not their style. They don't rely on one person except for Brady. Brady's the only one. But they don't rely on people like that. So it's like, you're right, man. As much as Brady is like the guy we love to take Brady, but it's tough to, like, when you're stacking, it's kind of hard to get it right. Like there's some options. And now you mentioned they have a backup tight end. So now we have, again, you still have to worry which tight end. Like Gronk, everybody knows they're going to cover Gronk, but they do a lot of double tight end sets. And they've shown they'll throw it to both tight ends. They don't care. They'll throw it to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, man. And also, what you said about the Patriots and blowout games. That was a big issue for people, I think, is they see the Patriots are favored by 14, and people who maybe don't know football think like, oh, that means Brady's going to put up a shit ton of points. And yeah, sometimes he did. Sometimes he would do it in the first half. He gave you all the points you needed, no problem. But a lot of the time what we would see is they'd have a decent first half, nothing too crazy, and then he's poised for a great game. But like you said, because they're blowing the other team out, they're winding it down, they're handing the ball off, they're doing very conservative play callings. They could even, towards the end of the season, start to pull them completely. So that's something definitely you want to note going forward with Brady. Obviously, he's Tom Brady, man. His upside, his ceiling is up there. But like you said, man, like he's somebody who's like, and like, don't get me wrong, I feel secure enough in Brady's floor because in the first half he can get everything done. But like it limits his ceiling at times, and so that's a great point. Talk to me about my Jets, Paulie. You don't have to be gentle. I'm not expecting much. Just go ahead, bro. Just lay it out there.
So as I was looking at the Jets, I think the most interesting thing I saw was like Austin Seferian-Jenkins. So he's coming in as the number one tight end this year. This guy was a talent. He got hurt at Tampa and then got overshadowed by Brate, and now they drafted another one. But this guy was a talent coming out of college, and McNown really had a great relationship with Barnidge when they were both healthy in Cleveland. So, it's now Austin Seferian's second year with the team, familiar with the playbook. I could see him and McCown developing a relationship, and with Enunwa being gone, becoming like his go-to guy. So that's one thing I'm really interested in. He's definitely going to be very, very cheap at the start of the season because no one's really expecting that. So in terms of FanDuel DraftKings, Seferian-Jenkins is a guy that I'm really, really interested in.
Ooh, you got me thinking, man. Because you know what, Robbie Anderson is the guy. The thing about Enunwa is he was a great possession receiver. He's the guy that you throw it to him in a crowd and he muscles it out. Robbie Anderson's not that guy. Robbie Anderson's like he burns you deep, and that's you just throw it up there and let him go get it. So who is their red zone guy? Like that's the question, and I think you might have just that's interesting.
Yeah, so exactly red zone and just like go to possession. He's a big target, and he was supposed to be a big time prospect. So I think that could be interesting. That's the one positive spot on the Jets that I'm interested in. Then McCown, I just don't see many weeks where he's going to be viable. I mean, the Jets will be playing from behind. So maybe against some teams like the Colts with terrible secondaries where, they're going to be coming from behind and, you may be able to use him, if you want to get go like Le'Veon Bell and DJ, you're going to have to go with a cheap quarterback receiver stack. And Robbie Anderson and McCown and ASG could be that cheap stack in certain weeks that you could approach. Now, the running game, Bilal Powell impressed me last year, and I think he will emerge as their number one. But, until they make a decision on Forte and him, if they're going to be splitting carries, I don't see either one having good enough value, in the beginning. But if Bilal can take that job away, he's got versatility. You can pass him the ball, you can run, draws, screens, or he can run, between the tackles on first down. So I hope he takes that job, and then he'll be interesting, and he'll be a cheaper running back that you could do if you want to go with an expensive quarterback receiver stack. He could be a cheaper running back play that we could use at some point. But a lot of question marks. And then, at the receiver spot, Robbie Anderson's interesting, but now, he's going to be getting the best cornerbacks of everyone's defense. And, I don't think he's got good hands yet. And I don't think he's just like proven enough. I don't know if he knows the playbook enough. Like the really, really raw talent that could emerge. But,
might take him a while.
Yeah, McCown doesn't have the strongest arm. Like, I don't know if he fits their talent base right now, but he's like a work in progress. After that, man, I don't know. Like, there's Ardarius Stewart. I don't know how many catches he caught last year, but it gets really, really ugly after that. We're gonna have to see if somebody emerges. But Austin Seferian-Jenkins and then Bilal Powell are the two guys I'd probably have my eye on for fantasy.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Talk to me about the Jets from a defensive perspective, because they still appear to have one of the best run defenses in the league, but their secondary is just, it looks rough.
Yeah, we saw Revis go from, one of the most feared,
broke my heart, man.
Defenders in the league to, the most picked on guy. And, Outside of that safety, who's more of a run stopping kind of guy, the guy from Louisville,
Calvin Pryor.
Calvin Pryor. We saw him kind of grow up last year and emerge, and I think he's going to continue. But other than that, yeah, like they'll be stopping the run, but I think teams are going to pass all over them. So maybe against a team like the Bears, if they play this year, you could play them as like a cheap defense. But I don't see using them in DFS all too much. Like they don't have a special teams guy that can return punts and get you value there that we know of. Because I don't think Robbie Anderson's going to be doing that. Like
He
he
can't. He's
was
the number one receiver.
Yeah, you can't risk it. You can't risk it anymore. So, like without that kind of weapon and without guys that are going to get you interceptions to the house or even sacks, I don't see it. I don't see the Jets as a DFS defense at all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I would imagine that they could be a very interesting team to target quarterbacks and
receiver stacks against.
Receiver stacks against, right. Because
Yep.
especially maybe a team that has more of a rushing tendency, because they're not going to be able to rush the ball very well. And so, when they have to play them and these teams are forced to pass, like it's not bad. You're pretty much thrown to it. Like you said, Calvin Pryor is a great run stopper. He's not a good defender, pass coverage defender. So that's a very, very good point for sure. Let's see. All right, talk to me about the Dolphins now from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, so this one's interesting because me personally, I actually think Cutler's a better receiver than Tannehill, a better quarterback than Tannehill. Like I think he's got more talent, and I think the Tannehill project was just killing the Dolphins. I know like their O line, like his first few years, he was getting sacked so much, and he was young, but he's been there about 4 or 5 years now, and I just haven't seen like that leadership, that playmaking in the clutch kind of performances from him that, breed confidence in a team. So I think Cutler, was like the perfect signing for them. Cutler's got a cannon, and they've got talented receivers. And Adam Gase, the head coach, was the offensive coordinator in Chicago when Cutler had his best season. And if you look back at that season, Cutler really didn't have much talent at receiver. It was like guys like Jay Bellamy, like Alshon Jeffrey got hurt. So, like if they can come in and mesh well, I think Cutler's going to have a slight advantage because he'll be familiar with the playbook. He could pick that up quickly, and then, they have the run first approach, but guys are definitely, Jay Ayaji's not going to sneak up on anyone. So teams may be focusing on shutting them down, thinking that they're not going to pass, and there may be some opportunities in the pass game, and we're going to have to like stay tuned and see who he develops that relationship with. He's got last year Kenny Stills was kind of like their deep threat, and he had I think the most receiving touchdowns. I don't know if that'll carry over with Cutler, but it could. Devontae Parker's a guy that they're all like hyped up about, and I think bringing in Cutler could make him more versatile with becoming a deep threat and a possession receiver. And then Landry Jones, that guy's got crazy speed. He's like a Odell Beckham Jr. clone. So, the Cutler thing, in my opinion, is a positive for them. And this is a team I think will be playing from behind a bunch. And a Cutler plus whichever receiver emerges could become an interesting cheap stack to, again, go after, the high-priced tight ends and running backs. So I don't know which one it is at receiver. They're all talented. And, hopefully by like week 2 or 3, we have a good idea of who Cutler likes and, get a look at if Cutler has the talent still. And it could be a sneaky kind of play early in DFS that may work out at low cost.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like, and with Cutler, it's like it's a very like he's the epitome of a GPP anything because he throws a ton of picks. He's a big turnover machine, but he throws a lot. Well, that was his style in Chicago. He threw the ball a lot. Like they had Forte, it didn't matter. Like they were all about throwing. And I have a feeling, like you said, they built this team to pass. They got all these great receivers because they want to throw the ball. They want to throw it around. And don't get me wrong, Ajayi had a great year last year, phenomenal year. I just don't know if he's the caliber player though that can keep that up consistently.
Yeah, so like I think like injuries is a concern because he is like as smash mouth as it gets,
Right.
and we saw he had 2 concussions last year.
Right.
But when that offensive line was healthy, he had two 200-yard rushing games, and he like emerged with that O line as a force. So if they stay healthy, he could be, a top end running back this year. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'm actually like interested in this team overall to see, you know, what their personality becomes. And, are they just going to like throw in the towel because Tannehill got hurt and Cutler struggles the first few games? Or are they kind of going to rally around their situation? And, they have the talent there to be good. They also went out and got Julius Thomas at tight end,
That's a great
who's a
call.
big, talented guy, and another weapon for Cutler, like as a bailout when, he doesn't find any receivers open. I think this team, like you said, could kind of shade away from the run, which last year they were a run first, run second, and run third team until they got down 14 points. But I think they could kind of, very quickly become a pass first team and have some potential, and for some important DFS value. So, the Dolphins are a team we're going to keep our eye on. Definitely one of these receivers, I think, is going to emerge with a relationship with Cutler. And if Cutler still has some skill, I mean, he's just been on awful, awful teams with the Bears. They've been
Yeah.
ravaged with injury. He hasn't had much talent. He hasn't had an O line.
He has not an O line.
But
No.
but the guy had talent, So if that O line is good, that's where it all starts for him. If he can get protected, I think he'll find some of these receivers, and it's an interesting thing to like, be early on, this year in DFS because
Yeah.
Once it happens a few times, the prices go up, everyone else jumps on it, and then it's over.
Yeah, you definitely don't want Cutler chalk. We learned that last year.
Yeah,
Last year, you don't want Cutler chalk.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, that's a great perspective because I didn't realize like how loaded the Dolphins have really become. But like they're pretty loaded. I mean, Julius Thomas at tight end, and he had Blake Bortles thrown to him last year. Remember?
Yeah.
So it's like so that's a great perspective, and I'm glad that we had this conversation because the Dolphins weren't even. I was laughing at Jay Cutler, but like when you think about it, you're right, man. This guy has a lot of weapons, more weapons than he's had in years. Granted, he's had Alshon Jeffrey. I get it. He's had Brandon Marshall, but when's the last time he's had a competent offensive line? When's the last time you didn't
Never.
see Cutler with grass in his helmet and his jersey tucked what I'm saying? When's the last time you seen all this stuff? So
Yeah.
it's like it makes a lot of sense, man. And people have been just laughing it up about Cutler. It's a big joke. He came in with his hair all flopped up. And listen,
Yeah.
the chalk theory is he's gonna bust, right? That's the chalk theory.
Right.
But stick to that and don't play Cutler in cash, no problem. No issues.
No.
But man, for tournaments or even if you're playing season long, even as like a third QB tucked away for a certain spot, if he just kind of falls to you, that's
Yep.
interesting, man. There's upside there. There really is.
Yeah, I mean, DFS football, it all comes down to like, lineup construction for that week, and there's going to be weeks where, Le'Veon Bell is going against the Colts and he's going to eat and you have to go with him.
Yeah.
Chalk is not a terrible thing in football like it is in baseball.
Especially not with running backs.
Yeah, so like you want that guaranteed 30 and then you got to build around it, and then it's finding a cheap quarterback receiver stack or quarterback tight end stack that allows you to pay up at some of the other positions that are a little more volatile that help you put up that 180, 200 kind of score. So, those are kind of situations you got to be on the lookout for. And it's a similar one, on the Bills that we're going to roll into right now.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great call. All right, Paulie, talk to me about these Bills. So let's wrap it up with the AFC East here.
Yeah, so, Tyrod Taylor, in fantasy and DFS, a quarterback that can run is an incredibly valuable weapon.
Yes.
So a rushing touchdown's worth 6, whereas a passing touchdown's worth 4. And, the rushing yards accumulate. I forget what it was, but it's like every 10 yards is a point versus every 25 for the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So, anytime a quarterback, like that last year, Kaepernick, that one game, I think it was against the Jets, where he rushed for 100 and change and threw for 300. He was the most valuable quarterback on that slate. We saw Mariota do it a handful of times. So a quarterback that can run is extremely, extremely valuable. So, when they let go of Sammy Watkins, I was just like bewildered because finally he was coming into camp healthy and he was a talented, freakish receiver when he was healthy.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get it. I think it was they don't think he's going to stay healthy and they were done, like having their season ruined by him and wanted to just go out and get somebody a little more reliable and lean on Shady a little bit more, but have some receiver weapons. And then also they drafted this kid Zay Jones, who's 6'2", 205 pound, out of East Carolina. He set the record in college football last year for most receptions with 158 in one season. So it gives you an idea of like how reliable he is. And then, he's been just blowing minds in camp so far this year. So he's already projected as their number 2 receiver. They let go of Robert Woods, and then they traded for Jordan Matthews, who we saw, as a talent last year with a pretty bad quarterback in Philadelphia, or not a bad quarterback, but a rookie quarterback.
Rookie quarterback, yeah.
Wasn't like every pass was on the money.
No.
And, we saw Jordan Matthews, scoring touchdowns, having 10, 12 reception games, and, catching the ball in between, the hash marks and being a deep threat. So I think with drafting this kid, Zay, a tall 6'2", big, strong receiver, they're going to move him outside, and then they're going to bring Jordan Matthews in at the slot, and then, have this Tyrod Taylor, Shady kind of like their primary offense, and then the play action game open up the pass and have 2 more reliable receivers that may not be like huge upside guys, but maybe good like wide receiver 3s if their prices allow for it, where they may get 7 catches for 101 touchdown in the right matchup. And then Shady, I think he's got the opportunity to be one of the best running backs this year. I don't think there's that much separation from him and Le'Veon Bell and DJ. I know those guys are better, but like Shady has massive upside. He can go for 80 yards on any play, and he won me a lot of money last year. Because those other 2 guys were always the chalk, I was always getting him at low ownership, and he put up better scores than those guys from time to time, or kept pace at same point per dollar. Like I love Shady. I hope he stays healthy, and I think this team is going in the right direction. Their defense is much improved, and it could be a good season for them. And last year they played from behind a lot, so like if Shady didn't get his early in the game, they kind of fell off. But this year they may be playing with a couple more leads. Like I think they're going to be the second best team in their division, and because of the poor record last year, they have an easier schedule this year. We may see Shady, get carries into the fourth quarter this year with the lead a few times, and his touchdown total may increase from last year. So I'm kind of high on this team. I like using Tyrod Taylor because he's usually cheap, and I loved using him with Watkins because Watkins was just like a deep threat weapon. But you can play Tyrod Taylor naked or Tyrod with Shady, and then mix it up with the rest of your team. So I like this team. I'm not too high on the receivers just yet. Clay, what's his name? Charles Clay is the tight end. He's kind of vanilla. I'm probably won't use him ever this year, but he's reliable, and you kind of see this team going a little bit more balanced. And I think they're going to lean on McCoy, and he's going to be one of my favorite running backs this year.
Yeah, they're definitely. When they got rid of Watkins, they basically made the commitment to McCoy. Like, hey man, the season's on you this year. Like, we're taking it basically. We're basically taking it out of Tyrod Taylor's hands and we're putting it into your hands.
Yeah, and they got rid of Gillislee.
Yes, and they got rid of Gillislee, who was a phenomenal backup for him. He did great. Yeah. And so they're giving the keys to Shady, and they're saying, dude, like, listen, your career, what you got, a couple years left, dude. Like at peak performance, we're gonna let you just go out there and kill it. We're gonna ride you. So. Great call, man. He's always at a lower ownership than David Johnson and Bell, and he's usually significantly cheaper as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's definitely a great call. And Taylor, man, you hit it on the head as far as quarterbacks, what it does for their upside when they could run. And by getting rid of Watkins and now having maybe a little bit of a younger receiving core and a less established receiving core. You could see Tayrod run more. You could see him in positions where he's scrambling, can't find, and just runs. He just can't find it.
Goes.
So that's a great call. Playing Tayrod, people don't like to play quarterbacks naked, but like there are certain quarterbacks, like even Cam Newton, once in a while. Sometimes you got to just suck it up and do it, and like some of these other rushing guys. So that's a great point, man.
Yeah.
Last thing before we wrap up the Bills, just talk to me about their defense as far as like going up against them. Are they a defense we want to consider? I believe that the Joe is convinced that the Bills. I think they're playing the Jets week 1. I think.
Are they?
I'm not positive, but I think it was the Bills. Now I gotta check because I opened up my mouth. So I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I just want to see. No, they're playing the Eagles. No, that's preseason. That's preseason. So maybe they are. I'm pulling it up right now. Week 1. Oh, okay. Yeah. They're playing the Jets week 1. Okay.
Playing the Jets.
They're
Okay.
playing the Jets week 1, September 10th. So Joe was saying that he's pretty convinced the Bills are going to be a super chalky defense because he didn't say that he liked the Bills against the Jets. Let me clarify. He thinks that's going to be a mistake.
They're going to be chalky.
He just thinks they're going to be chalky because the Jets have nobody. So it's like,
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a few of those matchups. The Steelers play the Browns, and the Falcons, who kind of emerged towards the end of the year as a reliable DFS defense, going against the Bears with no quarterback. So there's like 3 of these spots that are probably going to be more of the popular places to go for defenses. We saw the Bills have a reliable defense to start the year, and then they were just constantly on the field and, eventually got broken down. They have some talent, Shaq Lawson at the end, he's second-year player out of UCLA. Jerry Hughes, the other DN. I mean, these are talented guys. Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams in the middle. And that's a strong core front line. And then they got Micah Hyde at strong safety, EJ Gaines, a rookie at corner, and then Tre'Davious White, the other corner I'm not too familiar with. And then they have Ramon Huber, Preston Brown, who I know had a solid season, and Lorenzo Alexander in the linebacker core. Just because they're not home names, sometimes these guys are the right players that fit the system. I'm not sure where they fit overall, but I remember them being a slightly above average defense last year, and I think that's going to continue. I think this team's kind of going in the right direction. And on special teams, they've got Brandon Tate and this guy Walter Powell is supposed to be a speedster returning kicks. They're kind of in a battle. So Brandon Tate returned kicks for a while for the New England Patriots, and then he was over at the Texans. He's not the best return threat, but he's reliable. He's not going to fumble the ball, and he is a threat to score. It'll be interesting. We'll see how this team emerges, but they do have some decent pass rushers for sure. So that kind of helps the entire defense. If you have weak corners, the pass rush certainly helps them. I don't know if they're going to put up tons of points with sacks and picks, but I don't think they're going to give up a ton of points either. But yeah, I agree with Joe. Like, I don't think that I would go to Buffalo in week 1. I think I'd rather go to like a more whoever's going to be like a 10, 12 point favorite. Like in football, very, very popular, and it's been tested and proven that a running back defense stack is like the most reliable stack there
correlation,
is.
right?
Correlation stack in football. So what that says is usually the running back that's going to do well is on a team that's going to be winning, and he's going to be getting all those carries and adding on those yards at the end of the game. It's usually in a situation where the one team is significantly better than the other, and that's because of the defense as well. So I like to look for 10, 12, 14 point favorite teams to grab my running back defense combo with obviously lower over unders. So yeah. I don't think of Bills Jets like it's a inter division rivalry. It's the first week of the season, so like not everything may be gelling as much, especially with these teams with a lot of youth.
Mm-hmm.
I could easily see that game being like 28-24, and neither defense putting up much points.
Yeah, man, especially because think about it, week 1, these teams have the entire offseason to prepare for. So like they're studied, they're prepared more than any other game and they'll ever have in their life. They're prepared for week 1. And like you said, not to mention you have that in combination with defenses and offenses alike being rusty. And so like all things happen week 1, things are not in sync, new players get shifted around. So that's a great point, man. And I love the correlation call on the defenses and running backs. It makes sense when you think about it. If a team is successfully running the ball, what's happening? The clock is running, right?
Yep.
The clock is running. And what's happening? Your possessions, because the clock is running, your possessions are now taking longer, which means your defense is now getting rests in between, and they're not on the field so much, so that when they are on the field, they're ready, they're sharp. And if they're doing their job, the running back is going to keep getting those carries, and the game is going to keep cycling that way.
Right.
So
that's
a great
when
call.
you're coming from behind, you're taking more risky plays.
Yes,
There's opportunity for interceptions and fumbles.
More throwing.
So it just all comes together. You know,
does.
It's one of the highest correlated stacks, outside of the quarterback receiver. And, like last year it was something I learned of and used a lot, and it really did work a lot. So it's something to be on the lookout for.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Paulie, man, this was a lot of fun, man. I'm getting motivated. We talked about one of the worst divisions in the league, and I'm still hyped now. Like,
I know. This is awesome. I hope the members like it. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. If there's anything you want us to talk about, if you have questions about other divisions, let us know, and we'll definitely address them in the next video.
Yeah, definitely. And be on the lookout. Sometime before week 1, we will be doing we'll do a free live stream for everybody, and we'll get everybody together and just kind of talk some football. So be on the lookout for that coming up in the future. But in the meantime, you can check. We're gonna try to cover as many of these divisions as we can and pump these videos out. We'll cover what we can cover, and if not, like I said, we're gonna have plenty of content for you this football season. We're excited. So, Paulie, thanks again, my man.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. So, guys, listen, if you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up, that like button for me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It means a lot to us. We're putting this up on the audio as well so that people are in the car want to listen to it. I think it's fine. So if you're listening on the Podbean or the iTunes, the audio-only version, that's fine too. Give us some positive reviews and subscribe there as well. Anyway, this was a lot of fun for Paulie and myself. As always, good luck.
Yeah, baby.